Hello, and a big welcome to the Metabolic ANZ podcast. This is where we share real stories to help you understand much more about metabolic balance and the potential of personalized nutrition. Today, I am delighted to welcome not only a client of Metabolic Balance, but also a very experienced lady with a corporate background who is now also training in her clinical nutrition degree and will soon potentially also become a Metabolic Balance practitioner. So we're actually hearing all different sides from Susie Allen today. A big welcome to you, Susie.
Hi, Cherry. Hi, lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm very excited to have a proper chat with you. This is really cool. So,
Yes.
Can you maybe share a little bit of your background?
Yeah, so I spent all of my career, so pretty much the last kind of 25, 30 years in IT, in senior management positions. Um, I I just kind of fell into it. I was pretty good at it, so I just kept doing it. But
Yep.
I had this thing from when I was very young that I wanted to do something health related. I wanted to
Okay.
heal. I loved science.
Yeah.
And yeah, so this thing just wouldn't leave me. So I 4 years ago, 3 years ago, started studying for my bachelor's in clinical nutrition. And about 3 or 4 months ago, gave that whole world up and now fully dedicated um, to that new kind of health arena.
Wow. Okay. So basically a
Yeah.
complete pivot, really, from where you've been working
100%.
into,
I've gone from, looking after 95 people and IT operations for the whole of Queensland to kind of me at home and in clinic looking
yeah,
after individuals and their health outcomes.
yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
And so, what has introduced you to metabolic balance?
It happened actually when I did a clinical placement, probably about a year and a half ago now, with one of your now metabolic practitioners, Leanne Stockwell,
Yeah.
fabulous naturopath.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she just had a client there one day who was speaking about metabolic balance, and I was just observing the consultation, and
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't heard of it. So, and this lady was saying that she and her husband and her boss had just so much more energy since they went on metabolic balance, and they are all people who kind of work in the health arena as well. You know, they live kind of healthy lives, but this just optimized their quality of life. So this client left, and I was like, Leanne, what is this metabolic balance thing?
Mm-hmm.
So we got into a whole conversation about that. She started talking about practitioners that she knew who had become metabolic balance practitioners, and how, you know, it was wonderful for their clients and their business and their practice, and, you know, everything just kind of made sense. And I
Mm-hmm.
just thought to myself, I'm interested in this, you know,
Mm-hmm.
from a
Mm-hmm.
practitioner point of view, but also for myself, because I've had, you know, a plethora of health issues over the years. And, I wanted to lose a bit of weight. I wanted to get more energy. I wanted to optimize. You know, I'm
Mm-hmm.
always interested in
Mm-hmm.
optimizing. I love this
Mm-hmm.
stuff. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
food is
Yeah.
medicine. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, then a few weeks later, I contacted a nutritionist who, is the fabulous Sharon Carius, who
Mm-hmm.
is, you know, a top metabolic balance practitioner. And I just said, you know, I'm interested for myself, and explained what I was studying as well. And it's the same degree that she had done. So she was so excited, you know, to bring me on board as a client, and then to also kind of talk to me about this. So
Yeah.
we kind of started that journey together then, with me as a client, but then, you know, and needing to have some health optimization for myself, but then also me thinking about that from, you know, longer term, you know, how does I want to try things for myself before I would consider implementing those, as a tool for my own clients in the future. So that's where it started, Leanne, and then Sharon. And, you know, Sharon has been with me, you know, on the whole journey, and it's been, absolutely amazing. She's fantastic.
Yeah, awesome.
Mm.
So the journey then, that there's a few things I kind of want to dive into there. First of all,
Yeah.
this journey of how you know really going into becoming a natural medicine practitioner and
Mm.
nutrition, because was there a degree of also healing for yourself there as well? I mean,
Oh, healer, heal thyself. Yeah.
yes, that's what I'm just
Yeah,
because that's what a lot of us have.
absolutely.
We have that place
And
where we didn't feel right and nothing was helping
yeah,
us, so we have to find the
yeah.
solution, and then you go down the
Well,
training.
100%. And the
Yeah.
first time it really clicked for me was 16 years ago. So I've got polycystic ovary
Okay.
syndrome. Um, and, I've known that since kind of my mid 20s. But then about 16 years ago, when I was no longer in my mid 20s, and I wanted to get pregnant, and I was told basically you'll need fertility treatment. I've got, I think 8 ovaries, or 8 cysts on one ovary and 13 on the other. It was a mess. You'll need fertility treatment. And I went, really? Let me research this a little bit. So I researched it and started to understand the role of insulin in our hormone balance and insulin resistance, and how that messes with our fertility, basically, and its role in PCOS. So I adopted a very specific diet that was to kind of modulate the energy and the glucose and insulin over the day, as opposed to getting these spikes to therefore positively impact my sex hormones. So I did this for a couple of months, and then we started trying. I got pregnant within 7 days.
Oh wow.
So that
Fabulous.
was my kind of first self I suppose, prescription for food as medicine.
Yes.
So I'm like, oh, this stuff's really powerful, duh.
Yeah.
We learn eventually. And then, I had a couple more things where a few years later, so I've had chronic back issues with scoliosis. I've had a spinal fusion, spondylolisthesis,
Right, yeah.
which for those who aren't familiar is basically like a fracture in your spine. So I've got all of these things. It was on chronic pain, on prescription painkillers for many, many years, decades. And I went on a diet, basically a paleo diet, one time, and it was just to lose weight. And this was probably 12 years ago. And on day 3, I woke up in no pain. And I went,
there you go, you see.
What's this thing I'm doing? Let's research a little bit.
Yeah.
And then long and the short of it was inflammation. And, understanding then the relationship between different foods and inflammation. And, whilst a food is not going to fix the structural issues in my spine, now knowing that an inflammation will often manifest and appear in some of those weaker areas that you've got, and my spine is always going to be a weak area for me. So, so that, took me off gluten, and the whole healing and gut healing journey kind of took place from there.
Yeah.
And, then, they're probably the two main ones. And then, at SIBO about 4 years ago with massive infections and fatigue for about a year.
Yeah. So just to clarify, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. So, we want those bacteria, the healthy bacteria, to be in our large intestine, not kind of up further, because that can cause, as you know, many different health conditions, and as it did with me. So I've healed that with a naturopath through food as medicine as well. So I've had all of these things that have happened to me over the years, where the power of food just really, shone through. Yeah. So I had to do more about it.
Yeah. So basically, what I'm kind of sort of hearing then is that you had all of these different diagnoses and problems kind of coming from a place of inflammation, as we kind of often say. It's that underlying driver that so many people suffer with. And that you used over the years many different food as medicine, natural supplements and things like that to seriously improve matters.
Absolutely.
Then you did your degree, you embarked on your degree, and then really got
Yes.
into
Yeah.
the learning and the knowledge, the deep knowledge side of things.
Yes. Yeah.
But you still then needed you've then embarked on metabolic balance as well. So it's
Yes.
yeah. So it's almost like
Yeah.
what I often see with this kind of story, and my own story also back is the same. It's very, very similar, different, but of a similar trajectory is probably the way
Yeah.
to say it. It was then that next step up. So do you want to
Absolutely.
could you just expand a bit on that?
Yeah. So as I said, the chronic pain reduced significantly when I went off gluten, but it was still there. So there was no more prescription painkillers, which was great. When I started on MB, what I noticed within a few weeks is that pain level came down significantly again. There were actually some days when I had no pain. And that for me was just life changing because, I have lived with pain for over 30 years now. And so, yeah, anything that I can do to bring that down. So really understanding what those foods are for me, and making me kind of own the fact that, cow's dairy is not my friend, even though as much as I want it to be, and really getting the science behind that. And that helps me to understand why I had random things that that I noticed with MB as well that I never ever would have thought of from a food as medicine perspective. So my lovely Irish skin and blood, midgies, mozzies, they love me. And
Yeah.
I would come up in welts. It was just awful.
No.
And, to the extent that one time I was in an airport in Sri Lanka and I had to go to the doctor in the airport to get antihistamine injection in my bum because the bites were that bad.
Oh, you
so and then of course I moved to Australia, super clever, but so that continued. But with MB, I still get bitten, but I don't get the reactions.
Oh wow.
And this for me, like I avoid grass in the barefoot because I'm just going to get bitten alive and it's going to make my life miserable for 2 weeks, but not anymore.
Yes.
So
isn't
when
it,
we look
isn't
at
it fascinating? Isn't it fascinating what the human
who's going
body?
To write that in a brochure?
Yeah, no. Or even who it's also something you're not going to do a research study on getting all these people about how their reaction to bites are, but actually, it's what comes back to me all the time, working with MB over the years that response that so many people get to certain things that they think is just permanent and that is what they do. It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, exactly. And the things that I avoided because I would get bitten all the time, I don't have to avoid anymore.
Yeah.
Because my body is healing itself more.
Yeah. It's like the amazing side effect. I mean, that's a side effect, isn't it? A side effect.
Yeah, it's a wonderful side effect.
Yeah. A side effect of a therapy that you did for a particular reason, but then you realize, I don't even have that anymore and I don't have to deal with that, but I never did it for that reason.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm very happy about
it. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and it's been great as well, kind of marrying up some of what, I've learned through MB and then with what I'm learning kind of from a science perspective, because I'm very much a person who needs to know why.
Of course.
I don't do very well with just do it. So it's been wonderful for me being able to marry those up. So, we spoke earlier about small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, SIBO.
Yeah.
And understanding about the migrating motor complex, the process and the cycle by which kind of we clear food through our intestines and how long that takes, and the 5-hour break that we get with MB in between our meals allows for that process to happen so that we're not getting this buildup of bacteria in places where we don't want it. And, our food can get down and, build that wonderful community of bacteria in our large intestine. So that's been, for me, one of the major preventative factors in going back to a SIBO picture as well.
That's a great point. I mean, this is also one of the things I often say is we have this structure around ME. We have the guidelines, the what you could call the rules, but actually each one of those has multiple benefits for doing it. It's not just one thing.
Yeah, exactly. And, understanding how, we need to give our bodies rest. We need to be reducing, we spoke a bit about inflammation earlier, it's at the root of so many things, insulin resistance as well from, a longer term metabolic health perspective. So, we need to give our bodies a break. And we need to give our bodies the right food that's not going to be causing these peaks and troughs in glucose and insulin, so for that longer term. So it's been wonderful, understanding the science behind kind of all of that as well. And, knowing I'm doing myself a favor and, and I'll be the first one to admit, I have not been perfect.
We don't want perfect. We don't yet.
No, exactly. It's real. It's real. We do. And, last year I went through massive burnout for 8 months.
Wow.
And turned my life upside down.
Studying and working at the same time will do that, really, won't it?
It really, it took its toll. So, but that's, what we do from a holistic perspective is we look at everything, and I go, this is the path that I'm on. This is where I need to be in terms of my health, my career, my ability to help other people. And I needed to make some really big changes. And it took a long time to build myself up to be able to make those. And I did. So I said, bye-bye corporate career.
Yeah.
This is where I'm going. So, but it's, so I've kind of gone in and out a little bit, but, kind of stuck to the guidelines. So even when, my food has not been perfect. Sharon talks about the food in terms, your best friend, your acquaintances and strangers on the street.
Yeah.
I love that because, sometimes I was having, breakfast with, the strangers on the street, but, I'm having my protein first and, I'm having my break and, still doing all of those. So, I still managed to kind of maintain the benefits that I'd gotten until I was at a point where I'd done all of that work. And, I had an late ADHD diagnosis as well in that time.
Right, yeah.
So, trying out the medications for that and, which were all hideous for me. Now, they have their place, absolutely, for some people, didn't work for me. So going through all of that. But it's been great now, that all of that's sorted to be able to come back and just kind of, it's like this kind of comfort blanket as well, knowing what my body needs. And that when I've done all of those other external things that I needed to do with my life, but it's still there. And I have to say, Sharon has been absolutely amazing with, and this is what like any good practitioner should do. And she's a stellar one for it, is just meeting you where you are. And, and that's, I think the benefit of a program like this as well is, you can, yes, you're going to get the better results if you come in and you stick to it and, you do, as per the program. But, and I did, and got loads of benefits for, quite a long time. But then, as a holistic practitioner, then, we meet people where they are and, help them get through to a point where they're, willing to, or not willing to, but have better capacity to kind of do more for themselves.
Yeah, that's a really lovely way of putting it as well. Because I think too much is often put on people to do it by themselves. And we know that when you have the real knowledge coupled with the great support, it's like a match made in heaven to actually then get results. And I think
absolutely.
and this is the real goal. The real goal of mine is to support all of the practitioners across Australia and New Zealand to really, as you say, meet people exactly where they're at, and then guide and support them to empower them to be able to have that place and knowledge to just lean in when they need to.
Yeah, exactly. And, I find that with my ADHD clients at the moment is, it's very often needing to help them to understand what strategies are going to work for them, and it's knowing, what their presenting complaint is, but, how can we work with their mindset and with their neurotype to optimize that and kind of make it easy, and and for anybody, not even just kind of neurodiverse people, anybody who's in a state of overwhelm or burnout,
which could almost be anybody, couldn't it? I mean,
100%.
We have a society and a world where we are almost bombarded from all different sides to be some perfect picture of something or other, whether that's working or mothers or providing for families, whatever that role that you feel, being a perfect daughter, carer, all the rest of it. But it's got to come back to the individual to say, I've got to look after myself in order to then be able to look after anyone else and do anything else to the best of my ability.
Yeah, it's that whole, pouring from an empty cup. You can't.
Yeah.
And I love the analogy of the sandwich generation. That kind of, we're in that kind of 40s generally, still often have young kids and parents, and we're stuck in the middle, and we've got all of these things, all of these pressures on us, and I know Dr. Libby Weaver talks about rushing women syndrome, and I remember, I've had so much burnout over the years, but it was probably about 10 years ago, and I first listened to that, and I just cried. I went, oh my God, it's me. It's because we rush, and sometimes we need to stop.
Absolutely. I remember reading those research into the most challenging age is actually the age of 47. 47 is that age where often, you've had your family, but they're now into either teenage years or they're in that much more challenging, and your parents are now needing maybe more support. We're in that career point where we kind of are committed to a career, but maybe it's not quite what we want, and then often then the financial constraints can come in at that time, that we've got mortgages,
and
but
perimenopause,
and we've got the perimenopause coming in, so and that's and that's the picture of where I just say, let's just get the control for you in how your body is going to feel to the best of its ability. It's not making it perfect.
Absolutely.
We're just saying, let's just make that bit as optimized as we possibly can and give you the tools to make it to change it, and then you can see what else you can tackle in a much more balanced way. Because you've mentioned as well,
it's a really powerful tool.
You've mentioned that you've had burnout a few times, and and you're also coming to the end of your degree now, where things are really ramping up. But you've now also got the metabolic balance knowledge that you've also been able to do. So is it different, the kind of the pressures you're at now with MB as opposed to without?
I think MB is definitely helping me at the moment. I mean, my stress level, because I'm only doing one full-time job at the moment, study is fantastic anyway. So, I just by virtue of that, I feel better. But, where I find with, knowing my foods with MB, that I can just go, okay, I can meal prep. I'm lucky, and I love food anyway, and I love cooking. So, I can meal prep. I know it's going to be good for me, and, I just go. So it definitely helps me in terms of, that prep. And so much of it now is just ingrained in me. I can't have lunch without an apple. No, I just can't. They go everywhere with me. So, it helps in terms of simplification at the moment.
And I think that's what it's about, what becomes more second nature, what becomes more, it's just the norm. It's funny sometimes when I get, it's in a very, very common question that that I can have from clients or just people. Well, you've got a food list and you've got a menu plan, and you follow this. But when can I eat normally again? Is then the question.
Yeah.
And so, again, it's like, well, normal is burnout, feeling tired, terrible digestive complaints, headaches, pain, inflammation in your body. That is actually the norm for so many people, and it's carrying the weight that is not good for you. It's not about being a perfect body size. It's about being good for you and the right shape for you. And that's the norm in society.
I know. And I got that a lot, especially when, not so much with MB, because I generally tend to eat, healthy anyway. But it wasn't MB optimized, but, when I first gave up gluten, people kept saying to me, when are you going back on normal food?
It's like,
I'd say, you knew me a month ago when I could hardly walk.
Yeah.
And now I can, and you're asking me if I want a sandwich? Yes. No.
Yeah.
And it's bizarre because, when you cut out, rubbish food, and people think, oh, you're cutting out whole food groups, Macca's is not a food group.
No.
Let's be clear.
Yeah.
And, but it is more bizarre to a lot of people for us to, say no to some of those foods than to say yes to health.
Yeah. I think I think once you start to really open your world in many ways to seeing what is actually out there and how easy it is to eat well, because I think from my point of view, I often think that whatever we actually decide is easy or hard pretty much becomes the reality. So if you have this idea that it's too hard to eat well every day, well, of course that's going to be the case, because you'll kind of almost reinforce that opinion every single day. Oh no, this is too hard to do, and this is too hard. But once you start to say, do you know what? It's far easier to live without pain. It's far easier to be able to fall asleep well, to wake up refreshed, to not have headaches. Then everything else becomes easier, and you start to see, okay, well, actually, there are many places. There are little, extra cafes, that could, asking what you need to do. It's so much easier when you choose to see the options in front of you.
Yeah, and be mindful. If you are eating something that's not optimal, do it mindfully.
Yes.
And enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then go back to your healthy food.
It's the true 80-20 kind of place, isn't it? I always I mean, like, I have to, if I this might shock a few people when I say this, but I'm not completely anti-Macca's. This is gonna because the reason being that there have been times over the years where life can overtake you, can it not? I mean, like, you with all the best will in the world, you might not have. There may not be something you can eat, but, if you've got a particular, and for me as well, I also have a very strong gluten intolerance. So and there are times where traveling or journeys or something like that means that you don't quite sure where to stop. I would say Macca's fries is the one thing that I will occasionally have.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking maybe twice a year, less even that. I mean, actually, to be honest, I can't remember. But in the back of my mind, I know if push came to shove and I was absolutely desperate, I had to find something to just bring up my blood, bring something in, because I had nothing else. I actually know. So this is where I always say there is a place to consider what is the best thing for you, is my point here. Because
and what does your body need right now?
What do I need right now? And it's not something I'm going to go for every week. I mean, like I said, I can't actually really remember the last time I had to do that. It could even be like 3 or 4 years ago. But in the back of my head, I kind of think if I needed to, I know it's kind of there. So this is kind of almost where it's not something that nourishes your body, but it is something that would fill a hole for that one time when it's needed. That's kind of, that
That's
might
fine.
shock people. Remember that I say that?
No,
Because I think it's about balance.
We live in the real world.
We live in the real world. This is it. It's
We
a real
do,
world.
and and it certainly gets me when I'm in burnout and overwhelm, which is with the type of person that I am. That happens, and it's very common as well, kind of with ADHD as well, depending on your presentation. So that for me is when it's really difficult for me to make those better decisions, and I miss sleep, and then the knock-on effect that has, and all of that. And for me, a lot of this journey has been learning not to beat myself up for that. And
none of us are perfect. No, not at
and
all.
it's not good or bad,
No,
and it's not a reflection of the person that I am. And I went out this morning with a girlfriend, and I had avo on gluten-free toast, and
lovely.
it was gorgeous, and it fed my soul, because I met with a beautiful friend, and
but you navigated that in the way that meant that you were actually then feeling good just straight away. That's the thing that I really want to try and get across.
100%.
It's learning,
and I'm not going to have anything that's going to make me feel sick.
No, it's learning how to navigate the situations, enjoy all of the times that you want to enjoy, and do it on your terms, and then really walk away feeling
as well.
Walk away feeling truly energized on all different levels. Oh, that's so cool. I love it too. I mean, that's it.
No.
And so you're also going to be starting your MB training, which I'm very excited to support you.
Yes, in November, which will be great. So beginning of next year.
Yeah, that's exciting. Is there a particular focus that you think your practice is now going to develop towards?
I definitely have a couple of things, like that ADHD and neurodiversity and neuroaffirming practice is really important to me. I think anything really where we've seen medical gaslighting. So things like those, a lot of female reproductive conditions where we've been told pain is normal. You're just going crazy. It's just your hormones.
You've got to put up with that. It's your age. That's what everybody has to do. Oh, God, awful,
exactly.
There's no other choice.
Drives me mad.
Drives me mad too.
So that's what I'm really passionate about, is hearing people's stories and believing them. And ADHD as well, especially kind of women my age. We talked about that kind of whole sandwich generation and the pressures that are put, and a lot of women, the average age for female diagnosis currently is about 36. And that's because those executive functions are impaired by stress. And by all of the pressures that we're under. So whilst we may have been functioning for so long, that underlying anxiety, micro traumas, all of this, and then the pressures of life generally tends to really kind of explode in those 30s and 40s. And that's why so many women are getting diagnosed late. They're not going mad.
No, they're definitely
and
not.
There are things we can do to help. So, and metabolic health. It's not just because of metabolic balance. It's, understanding. I mean, metabolic balance is a hugely powerful tool for it. But, getting to the root cause of what's actually happening with people, dealing with inflammation, dealing with insulin resistance, stress, all of those things that then have knock-on effects to, our longer-term metabolic health. So everything, and then I put in do a new subject, and it's the most interesting thing that I do in the world. So,
I know, I remember those times as well when I was, but the thing that I often I've been in practice now for 15 years and using MB for pretty much the whole of that time. But the key thing is that when you do get that metabolic health actually into balance, it's incredible what it fixes around it. So a lot of the time people go down the route, I've got to do this for that, and I've got to do this for that. And it's incredibly complex because I've got this, and this. Well, actually, often it's that the real underlying driver is the inflammation and the imbalance in your metabolism. And we can sort both of those out, and then we can see really what is truly a condition you truly have, as opposed to something that's just a consequence of that underlying imbalance as a whole.
Yeah, absolutely. The cause and effect, and the effect are those symptoms that we see, and then So, and that's where that root cause.
Yeah. Oh, I could carry on chatting all day, Susie. Thank you so much.
There's so much to talk about.
Thank you. And it's been really good to just get your insight from all these different aspects, different corners, and I'm really excited to be supporting you in the future as well.
Thank you. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to being able to offer this to more people, and even prackies I speak with who are not MB practitioners, and they say, what do you want to do? And I say, oh, I want to specialize in this, and they say, oh yeah, they've all heard about it and the powerful impact that it's having on people's lives. So everywhere I look, it's kind of affirming that it works, and that it's something that I want to have in my toolkit.
Awesome. Thank you, Susie. It's been an absolute pleasure. And if anybody would like to hear more about metabolic balance, either as training to be a practitioner or as a client to find your local practitioner, please do check out the show notes. We'll have all of the links that you need. And we just keep on listening. We'll share more. And thanks ever so much.
Thanks for your time, Jerry. Bye.